From ingesting tapeworms in order to lose weight, contracting tuberculosis on purpose, to plucking eyelashes and eyebrows to make the forehead look bigger. Unrealistic beauty standards in the past have made people do some very weird and painful things that are unimaginable. In most cases, these trends were set by royalty and the elite of the past. While 21st century health and fitness regimens emphasize cleanliness, earlier generations relied on some unpleasant beauty practices. Although fashion is ever evolving, back then it was wild. In actuality, people in the past intentionally injured themselves to look good. They sometimes even put their lives in danger to uphold the standards of beauty of their different eras. Beauty lovers behaved like modern people do today. They did what was expected of them. This is History Rediscovered. In today's episode, we discuss stomach churning with disturbing beauty trends in the Middle and Victorian Age. Tuberculosis was a beauty trend. The skinnier you are, the more pretty you become according to ancient people. Victorian society was known for its bizarre and dangerous beauty standards. Many individuals died of consumption, commonly known as tuberculosis, during the Victorian era, and the culture had a strange preoccupation with dying. Early-stage tuberculosis patients were noted to have the clearest, most attractive skin. Powers hypothesized that this was due to the disease's effect on the body's impurities, which resulted in the disease's victims' clear, white skin. Women were instructed to consume as little as possible in order to emulate this. They were able to weaken their bodies while still maintaining just enough strength to function. Women in the Victorian era were drawn to the beauty of tuberculosis sufferers' pale skin, narrow waists, and crimson lips and cheeks. This swiftly turned into a fad, and women started deliberately getting the illness in order to seem lovely. A suggested menu included a few strawberries for breakfast, a half orange for lunch, and cherries for dinner. If you really had to, it was also acceptable to have some warm broth. Even though contracting tuberculosis was a fairly horrible way to die, and it seems unlikely that any sane person would deliberately choose to do so, tuberculosis victims were highly regarded for their translucent skin, watery eyes, and slim waists. They were also thought to be exceptionally beautiful. They thought a respectable lady should be slim, pale, and in good health. Upper-class women were even thought to be more susceptible to tuberculosis, making the sickness an indication of social rank. Ammonia carbonate and powdered charcoal were both considered essential components of every woman's beauty regimen by the Victorians. These dangerous substances were intended to rest on the faces of women. Women were also told to take a range of medications every 3 months to purify their blood, even though they were really making themselves ill to appear to be near death. Bloodletting trend by Queen Elizabeth I. Bloodletting has been used historically for a variety of alleged purposes, such as the treatment of diseases and conditions and balancing the body's humors for better health. However, because blood is lost during the procedure, it was also used during the Victorian era to enhance paleness. In order to enhance the external image of her virtue, Queen Elizabeth I, often known as the Virgin Queen, used to paint her face a ghostly, flat white. What began as a short-term fix to hide significant scars left on her face from an unplanned case of smallpox evolved into a real look. Women in the Renaissance used to cover their faces with thick white cosmetics to mimic Her Highness' pale appearance. Nonetheless, they would engage in bloodletting, where they would either bleed themselves or let leeches to suck their blood, to attain this royal look naturally. However, any area of the body that allowed for easier access to sucking blood out of their veins would typically function. Preferred location was the ears. Everyone who has been bitten by a leech knows how excruciatingly painful that is, but back then, women would willingly put up with the discomfort of having real leeches draw their blood from them in order to briefly rock the in vogue look of death. Wow, humans are weird. Crocodile excrements for toning the body. The body-tone mud baths used by the Greeks and Romans contained crocodile dung. It was also applied to facial masks since it was thought to delay aging. Many animals and animal byproducts were employed for medical and cosmetic purposes by the ancient Greeks and Romans. One widespread misconception was that reptile excrement had the ability to slow down aging. Thus, the Greeks and the Romans once utilized a mixture of heated dirt and crocodile waste in their bathtubs. Then they would sit there for hours thinking that their skin would suddenly get younger. Some of the wealthier individuals were rumored to make face masks from the excrement and mud concoction. Galen, the famous Greek physician, observed that crocodile dung face masks were favored by affluent women to full body baths. Although this was undoubtedly one of the most repulsive beauty techniques, nobody was harmed while attempting it. Eating tapeworms to lose weight. Victorian women often wore corsets to reduce their waistlines to the barest minimum. Some ladies would purposefully take a tapeworm pill in an effort to lose weight. All meal the mother ate would be devoured by the slithery baby creature after it emerged from the stomach. The woman would take medicines to kill the tapeworm once she finished her diet. But it was also thought that leaving your mouth open while seated in front of a bowl of milk would encourage the worms to come out on their own. Even if that method worked, humans might choke because tapeworms have been reported to grow as long as 9 meters, 30 feet. A device created by Dr. Mayers of Sheffield was intended to get rid of tapeworms from people's stomachs. He would slide a metal cylinder loaded with food down the patient's throat. The tapeworms would be forced inside the cylinder to consume the food if they didn't eat for a few days. Theoretically, he could pull the tube out of the patient and remove the tapeworms from their stomachs once the worms were inside. Regrettably, a lot of his patients choking on his device finally passed away. A dimple machine was invented. Dimples are loved by everyone. There are a lot of folks who desire dimples. If only there was a device that could enchant our cheeks with dimples. There was in fact only one such device. It was developed by Isabella Gilbert in 1936 and is referred to as the dimple creator. The tool was a spring with 2 tiny knobs that pressed against cheeks to make dimples. Only basic instructions were included with the machine: when getting dressed, relaxing, reading, or writing. Wear dimplers for 5 minutes at a time, 2 or 3 times per day. Laugh as you gaze into the mirror. Where you should always set the dimplers till your dimples are made will resemble a line. The apparatus was a spring-like mechanism with 2 circular knobs. Wherever the desired dimples exist, that is where the knobs should go. In order to make 2 depressions on either side of the face, the knobs would simply press the cheeks tightly. In 1947, the medical professionals at the American Medical Association condemned the device because they thought that repeated use of the device might cause cancer. Eyebrow plucking. Women plucked out their eyebrow hair and hairline hair in the 15th and 16th centuries. Most ladies in the Elizabethan era chose to go without any brows at all. They aimed to resemble Queen Elizabeth I, who had a broad forehead and extremely thin, nearly non-existent brows. As a result, some ladies removed a large portion of their hairline and eyebrows. Evidently, they used bandages soaked in ammonia and vinegar or walnut oil to remove hair. Women supposedly valued higher hairlines in the 15th century as well, since they believed that ladies with broad foreheads were extremely intelligent. Whitening face with mercury and lead. The various cosmetic products women used during the Middle Ages to whiten their complexion usually contained one common ingredient. White lead, mercury, carbolic acid, and mercuric chloride were found in lotions and creams used to bleach the skin, which would eventually cause health problems after extended periods of use. However, some women used these dangerous ingredients to their advantage. The brand Aqua Tofana would intentionally add poison to their powder and sell it to wealthy women who wanted to take out their husbands by poisoning their food. The ideal upper-class Victorian woman had facial skin that was unblemished and as white as possible. If their skin was imperfect, they applying lotions, face paints, and even powders. The only problem was this makeup contained things like lead and radium. Of course, they didn't realize lead could cause severe poisoning when leached into the skin, or that radium was radioactive. Arsenic baths. Arsenic was widely available in pharmacies throughout the Victorian era and is frequently used as a poison to kill rats. It wasn't just women who thought arsenic would be alluring. It was regarded for many years as a prehistoric form of Viagra that boosted male sexual arousal. Little doses of it produced a euphoria or delirium that rendered people chemically and psychologically addicted. To get a clear and pale skin, women in the 19th century chewed on arsenic wafers, offered by Sears. Generally speaking, it was effective because arsenic causes the body's red blood cells to die, which results in naturally fairer skin. Yet women could also anticipate having flawless pale skin, vomiting, internal bleeding, hair loss, and blindness. Would you do any of these beauty trends? Tell us in the comments section.